All right, what's going on, guys? I want to talk about the EOS.io software and the EOS project. And you can see here we go. Here's the logo, A New Dawn, EOS.io. Now, what is a EOS.io? EOS.io is a piece of open source software that lets you create and run your own EOS blockchain. So EOS.io itself is just a software that lets you create a blockchain, an EOS blockchain. And you can have an EOS public blockchain with a bunch of nodes. You could have a private blockchain for your own private business. So unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum, which only have one main, like a main net, one main blockchain, like a singular main blockchain that everything runs off of, EOS.io is just the software that lets you make these blockchains. So you can have a singular blockchain, but you could also have as many as you want, and they can actually all talk to each other. They have blockchain intercommunication, which is really cool, and I'll get into that. But from an overview, EOS.io is extremely configurable, and you can run just about any configuration you can imagine of the EOS blockchain. So you could run a blockchain that doesn't even have a cryptocurrency on it. If you wanted to, you could just have it pass data back and forth and use it for governance, because it's so configurable. You can change basically anything you want about it. And the same thing with it works on a delegated proof of stake consensus, and you can change the amount of block producers to whatever you want. So it's extremely flexible in that sense, that you can basically set it up in any configuration you can imagine. Now, the EOS blockchain itself is a smart contract platform. So if you know what Ethereum is, you've seen Steam and the decentralized apps that run on Steam. Well, those are smart contracts that are running on a smart contracting platform. So EOS blockchain is another smart contracting platform. So when you're thinking about decentralized applications, those will be running on top of the EOS blockchain. We'll have a bunch of smart contracts, they can be in the form of decentralized applications, and they will run on top of this blockchain. So if you know, like Web 3.0, the decentralized internet, put it on the blockchain, basically like Ethereum, EOS would be a huge catalyst to this movement. So I want to mention the technical claims here. So I want to talk about the technical aspects to this real quick. Now, EOS claims to solve the two biggest problems that we have today with blockchain technology. And the two biggest technological problems are scalability and transaction fees. And EOS says it can solve the whole thing. It's scalable, it's flexible, it's usable. So when it comes to scalability, EOS claims to do millions of transactions per second and has the ability to onboard millions of users. Now, how does it do this? It has parallel execution, asynchronous communication, and because of the way that it was constructed from the ground up, it can now support thousands of commercial decentralized applications and smart contracts on top of the EOS blockchain. So when you're talking transactions time and transaction speed, well, it has 3-second block times. Oh no, I'm sorry. It has, I think it either has half a second or 1-second block times. So confirmations are, transactions are confirmed almost immediately, and you can do millions of transactions per second. So that's huge. And the second issue with blockchains that you see with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and especially when you're trying to make a decentralized application, are the fees are ridiculous. And EOS eliminates fees. There's no fees. So with no fees, it solves the second biggest major technical problem. And because there's no fees, now you don't need to run a cryptocurrency on it, because you don't need to pay for gas, right? So because of that, you can actually now configure it so you don't have a cryptocurrency on it if you didn't want to. So it makes it even more configurable, if anything. So as I said, EOS is extremely flexible. You can have up to millions of users on it. It's interoperable with other blockchains as well. So EOS blockchains can talk to each other, as well as I believe they can talk to other blockchains that are talking the same protocol. So technically it could talk to an Ethereum virtual machine as well. EOS is upgradable without having to fork. So it's built, so it was built with that in mind. So you can upgrade it without having to shut down the whole network and or fork the entire network. Now you can just shut down certain areas of the network that are problematic, fix those, and everything can go back up and running smoothly. And also, it does not require users to download anything. I mean, you probably have to download a wallet, but or maybe not. Maybe you won't even have to if it works the same way as Steam it. But you don't have to. You don't need Mist. You don't need a special browser. You don't need some type of block explorer. All you need is a normal web browser. And EOS is also utilizing WebAssembly, which runs in the browser, runs in a Chrome or Firefox browser. I believe it's a collab effort between Google and Mozilla. So that's already going to be inside the web browsers that everyone's using today. So to access EOS, you don't need to download any external software. There's also a cool feature in EOS where you now have accounts instead of public keys, or you still have public keys, but you have accounts that wrap over them. So you can have human readable account names in EOS, so you don't need to remember some giant long string for a public key. You can just remember your account name. And the way that these accounts are set up, they also can be recovered if you get hacked. So EOS has stuff like that built into it that can protect users and give users a much better experience. It also has governance baked into it. So like, as I said, you could run it without a cryptocurrency and just use it for its governance and its data. The other parts of the other benefits of blockchain besides using the cryptocurrency. And yeah, I mean, it's so configurable. You can create your own cryptocurrency on top of the EOS as like a token. And you are already seeing that with people airdropping tokens onto EOS. So it's so flexible and so configurable that you can basically get this thing to do anything. And I bet there's a lot more coming with EOS in the next few months to look forward to. So as I said, EOS is a smart contracting platform and the most powerful infrastructure for decentralized applications. So when we're talking dApps, we're talking Web 3.0, we're talking put the internet on the blockchain, we're talking EOS. So why would you want to build on EOS? As I said, you can do whatever you want with it. It's extremely configurable. It's probably so overwhelming that you can, any application that you can think of, you can now put it on the blockchain. And once WebAssembly gets finished, if you don't know what WebAssembly is, it's basically running compiled code in the browser. So now you know how when some applications you have to download directly to your computer and then you like double click them and it opens up the application. So like it'd be like, all right, we need this application for Windows and then there's a different one for Mac. So instead of downloading it onto your actual hard drive, WebAssembly lets you compile that code and then just run it in the browser. So you don't even have to download it. You can just go on the internet and run code in the browser or run programs in the browser. So that with Web 3.0 or that with decentralized internet is a pretty big deal. Another reason why you want to use EOS is because it can finally scale to mass user adoption. You can have millions of users on it. And if you look at something like Ethereum, there's absolutely no way that this can be able to scale to millions of users, especially when you go to use one of the Ethereum dApps and there's all this gas prices and you need to have MetaMask or a wallet or a plugin, and then you need to put your public address in, and it's just EOS simplifies all of that, and it fixes the transaction and the fee problem, so it can finally scale to reach millions of users. So you can now have massive communities that are working on a blockchain. So when the EOS software is finally completed, it's going to be available and free for anyone that wants to start their own blockchain or build applications on a massive public EOS blockchain. So right now there's a community of people trying to get together. They're trying to get, I think, somewhere around the 21 block producers as a default number of block producers for an EOS blockchain, a public blockchain. And there's a whole voting mechanism involved and a governance method. So right now they're trying to get that together, so when the EOS software is finally released, they can put up a public EOS blockchain where we can start running these apps and we can start using them. I don't know if you can check out any of the apps on the test network right now. I'll probably look into that and see if I can get a first look at some of these EOS decentralized applications and what it takes to build them. And another thing, when the software first does get released, I believe this summer, it will be a single threaded implementation. So when we're talking parallel processing or parallel execution down here, we're talking multi-threaded, which means all these blockchains can go off, or all these applications can go off and do their own thing, and they don't have to wait on the synchronous timing between each other. So like it's not going to be like Ethereum where everything just gets clustered into one blockchain. So everything's waiting on the last transaction before you make the next transaction. Now you can do transactions concurrently, or basically almost at the same time. So that's how it scales massively. And they're going to first just release it as a single threaded implementation, but all the hooks and code will be there for multi-threaded. So they're just going to wait and make sure it's stable as a single threaded, and then they'll just click on the multi-thread and bam, it should be up and running. Another thing is any dApp that is built and tested on a EOS blockchain will work on any EOS blockchain. So you can think of, oh, if there ever is like two main nets or one public blockchain and one private blockchain, the dApp can easily go between blockchains, or it runs on either blockchain. And another cool thing is the blockchain interoperability. So you can have multiple blockchains and then they can share data between each other because they can talk to each other, they can communicate with each other, which is also huge, and a huge advantage for it's basically needed for any third generation blockchain. It's a big deal. And I believe that EOS can also talk to Ethereum virtual machines. But that is also a huge factor for third generation blockchains, is interoperability with other blockchains. So can EOS talk to, you know, Neo, for example? That is pretty important. Now, because of the nature of the EOS.io software and the problem that it's trying to solve, because it's now like scheduling these dApps, helping them talk to each other and share resources and processes together, that has been referred to as the operating system of blockchains. And it's also pretty funny because EOS.io is open source, so it's an open source operating system. I know it's different than a free operating system or free software, like as in Free Software Foundation. But I mean, you can easily parallel this with the GNU plus Linux distribution, since they're both free software in which users have the power and the freedom to do whatever they want with it. So it's unlimited software freedom, it's unlimited expression, and now with EOS, there's actually a monetary incentive, and there's a monetary system on top of it as well. So now you have a free software that you can do whatever you want with it, and there's also there's money involved now. So this is why I think, so what GNU plus Linux, or GNU/Linux, GNU Linux, whatever you call it, what that could never accomplish was widespread adoption. even though it was a superior operating system, I mean, technically speaking, it never reached widespread adoption, right? And this is where I think EOS could take the torch, because now it is both extremely user-friendly and it has the ultimate blockchain technology behind it. So now you finally have a recipe for mass adoption of a free software, of a free operating system software. So even though there's a ton of uncertainty right now, the project, it's not even completed yet. They're still building it. And the community is just in its infancy, and blockchain itself is just in its infancy, but there's just massive potential here. And this is where my theory comes in, right? Because it's called EOS. So just like GNU is a recursive acronym for GNU is not Linux. EOS is, I think EOS to me is a recursive acronym for EOS Operating System. So EOS Operating System, and then the EOS and the next one means EOS Operating System. It just goes down. So I don't know, that's just my theory and my take on it. But I'll definitely try to look into these decentralized applications that are being built on EOS, how to make decentralized applications on EOS, and how good they really are. More videos on that coming soon.